How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to probably the very last video of patch 9.0.5. We are basically hours away at this point from patch 9.1, so I thought I'd take a few minutes out of your day to basically do a little bit of a short Q&A, go through some of the things that I've seen thrown around all over the place over the last few days, answer some of those questions that are at the forefront of people's minds when it comes to goal making and the economy in general in World of Warcraft. People have seen a few things here and there, but there are still some uncertainties out there, so I thought I'd use a bit of time to clarify that. So I put together a few little questions, ones that I've seen thrown around, and I'm going to quickfire go through these with a little bit of detail for you so you know exactly what to do when patch 9.1 lands. First and foremost, people are aware of the new Crafter's Marks. They knew that Crafter's Mark 2 were really profitable. Creating those item level 168 bits of gear has been a nice little goal maker for many people. But how do we do it in patch 9.1? Where do we go? What do we do? How is it achieved? Well, very simply, you need to gain some reputation with the new faction out in Korthia. Korthia is your new sort of questing zone that you'll see. It is connected to the moor. You'll get here very, very quickly. And Crafter's Mark 3 is a reputation grind. You'll see from this Duchess Minx, you have Crafter's Mark 3 that becomes available once you are honoured. Now, we did some maths on stream recently, and we sort of worked out that getting honoured in the first week is going to be near enough impossible. There's just not enough ways to gain reputation to get honoured that quickly, so don't stress about it instantly. Just make sure you're chipping away at your dailies, you're doing the assault in the moor, and you're completing the campaign quests on those characters, and by somewhere in between, I'd say if you're playing on a regular basis, at some point in week 2 you should be able to pick up these Crafter's Mark 3 and start making some gold off those. There is though a Crafter's Mark 4. We're going to have to run down into a little cave round here just to show you Crafter's Mark 4. Crafter's Mark 4 is a little bit cooler, it's a little bit unique in terms of the fact that it creates item level 230 gear. Yes, it's very, very powerful gear. You can see here, it's actually, I call it Crafter's Mark 4. It's actually called Crafter's Mark of the Chained Isle. You pick this up once you are Tier 4 research with the Archivist's Codex. Well, what does Tier 4 realistically mean? Well, the Archivist Codex is the second new faction in Korthia, and Tier 4 is a couple of weeks worth of work, let me put it that way. It's basically an archaeology minigame. You run around Korthia, you do your quests, you find these relic fragments, and then you can turn these relic fragments into Archivist Rosor for catalogued research points, and you basically build up your reputation with him that way. Without going too deep into the spoilery side of stuff, it's quite a fun little mini game. There's a bit of treasure finding. You'll often find some pieces out in Korthia that you can turn back into this guy for a huge chunk of reputation. And in about a week and a bit's worth of effort, I got halfway through Tier 2, so I would imagine that people will start picking up this higher tier, like Crafter's Mark 4. People will be getting their hands on this probably in week 3 would be my guesstimation. You can in theory grind out reputation for this faction, but it's going to be a hell of a slog, and I wouldn't recommend anybody do it. I think you'd probably drive yourself insane for all of maybe 1 or 2 days benefit. Get some playing in Korthia, that's the basics when it comes to the Crafter's Mark gears though. So, what's next on the list then? How do we craft rank 5 and 6 legendaries? Rank 5 and 6 legendaries are what are hot topics for goal makers especially because, well, let's be fair, ranks 1 through to 4 were a bit of a money maker in patch 9.0. Anybody that got on board with a legendary game made a fair amount of gold off it. Ranks 5 and rank 6 are not new ranks that you learn from the trainer. They are additions on top of rank 3s and rank 4s. There's a new item called a Vestige of Origins. You can see it here. This is an optional reagent, very similar to the Crafter's Marks, but when used on a, as it says on the tooltip, when used on a legendary base armor piece at the time of crafting, I should point out, you cannot buy a rank 3 off the auction house and use one of these on it. Just like Crafter's Marks, it has its effect when you're crafting the item. What it will do is it will increase the rank by 2. So a rank 3 becomes a rank 5, a rank 4 becomes a rank 6. I can probably even go far enough as to show you, for example, let's say a Grimveiled Cape. In fact, let's switch over here. Bone Shatter Treads, for example, you can add your Vestige of Origins in and it will bump the rank up for you. This is very simple, very straightforward. You can then crank out your rank 4s, turn your rank 3s into rank 5s and your ranks 4s into rank 6s. Rank 5 is going to be item level 249. You can see this pair of Bone Shatter Pauldrons here. Additionally, there is, see if I can find it, rank 6, which will come in at item level 262. So relatively straightforward, no new patterns to learn. You keep chipping away at the experience of your legendaries, and you can use these Vestige of Origins to give you a boost of 2 ranks. Now, forewarning, these Vestige of Origins are campaign locked. You do have to complete the campaign, which you unlock at Renown 44. So you want to make sure you're keeping up with your Renown if you want to get on board with crafting those legendaries nice and early on. On a timescale wise, it is not physically possible for people to start crafting legendaries until week 2. So you've got an entire week's worth of time to just make sure you get your Renown sorted. Week 2 is going to be legendary craziness. What's next on our Q&A list then? Scorphite Crystals. Okay, Scorphite Crystals is something that people are going to be aware of, and these are going to be listed on your auction house. Scorphite Crystals are, for those that are still trying to catch up, Scorphite Crystals are one of the crafting reagents, the majority crafting reagent, that goes into making these Vestige of Origins. These are going to be relatively expensive. They're going to be expensive because Scorphite Crystals are going to be expensive. You can't get many of these. They are drip fed to you. You get Scorphite Crystals from completing daily quests, from killing rares, and from looting treasures out on Korthia. They so far are the only 3 sources that people have found to get these Scorphite Crystals, and it's needless to say they're pretty rare. We estimate that in a week's worth of effort on a single character, you might get anywhere between 5 with some very basic, just going out there doing your daily quests, and if you're really min-maxing and doing everything you possibly can do, you might end up with 20, but even still, you need 40 just to make 1 base legendary, so they're going to be rare. They can be sold on the auction house, and so people want to know how much should we be paying for them. It's the age-old rule though. The problem is we can't really tell you how much you should be paying for them, because they will sell for the price that people are willing to buy them for. It will, at least in the first week, be crafters that want to get their hands on these, but there's not a huge demand for them to begin with. I'm going to show you a little silly paint thing we did on stream today. Don't worry if this looks completely gobbledygook to you. It is very scuffed. But this was my very, very quick attempt at sort of trying to give people an indication of what's going to happen with these Scorphite Crystals. The first couple of weeks, as we've previously discussed, people can't make legendaries yet. You can't make the base legendaries until rank 2, and you probably can't craft it into your final legendary until week 3. So there's no real demand for these Scorphite Crystals to begin with, so the price will start out nice and high, because anything new does, but it will drop relatively rapidly over the first couple of weeks. This will be because people will keep farming them, people will keep getting them, people will want to be able to sell them because their price will be high, and it will force the price down over the first couple of weeks. When the demand kicks in though, when people start crafting those legendaries, I can categorically guarantee you their price will start coming back up again. There will not be enough of these Scorphite Crystals to meet the demand. I can almost guarantee it at this point. I think Blizzard has deliberately designed it this way. So yeah, easy answer is your Scorphite Crystals are going to be really expensive in the first few days. Grab yourself some alts, go out there, do some farming, grab these up, make sure you're banging out those daily quests in Korthia as frequently as you can on as many characters as you can. Get your hands on as many of them as you can. Maybe consider selling them in the first few days to those uneducated who are paying silly money for them. Then maybe a couple of weeks down the line when they're a bit cheaper, you can buy them back again and do some crafting with them. It's up to you. I can't give you any exact numbers because we just don't know at this point, but trust me, I love the legendary crafting system. I will let you know once the patch goes live and we start to see some pricing information. And finally, one thing that's a big hot topic with patch 9.1 is of course flying. When do we get flying? How do we get flying? We get flying in week 2. This is very similar to the crafting of the base legendary items. It's locked behind renown. You've got to be renown 44 to get the campaign quest. You go out there, you complete the campaign quest, and you'll activate flying. The cool thing is though, flying is account wide. You only need to do the flying on your main characters, and so you'll probably accidentally get this on your main anyway. We're going to get flying in week 2. That means the first week is going to be a bit crazy for materials, as people will want to start stockpiling materials, especially things like herbs and ore. We've already seen the price of ore do some silly things. The price of ore will probably go up a little bit as well, simply because alchemists will start buying it all up to start making their potions and flasks ready for raiding. But of course, with flying in week 2, it gives people the opportunity to zip around much easier and gather a whole bunch of materials much faster. So stay tuned and stick around for some farming guides and routes for the herbs as and when we get flying. But there we go, boys and girls. There's just a few little pointers and tips, and basically covering some of the hot topics that I've seen floating around the internet. I wish you the best of luck as we go into patch 9.1. It's long awaited. We could really do with some new content, and Goldmakers are just as eager as everybody else to get out there and have some fun. Finally, I want to give a bit of a shout out to my Patreons. Those guys have really upped their game in the last few weeks. We've refreshed our Patreon system with some new tiers, with some new goodies for people. The one that seems to be the most popular is my TSM groups and operations. People seem pretty keen to get their hands on that. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check it out. Every single supporter of Patreon means that I can focus less and less on making unnecessarily clickbaity videos and just give you guys the good stuff. But that's my little shameless plug out the way. Have a good day, enjoy patch 9.1, happy goal making, and I'll see you in a few days. Peace!